Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, September 17th, 2013. We're going to begin in a second with the salute to the flag. I'm going to ask, after the salute to the flag, that members of the public, staff, and supervisors remain standing for a brief moment of silence in memory of those victims of the shootings in Washington. Right? So. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Pullen, call the roll, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snipes? Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Mr. Snipes will not be here. He's ill, so he's unable to make it this evening. Before we begin, I wanted to ask our solicitors. We've had the past two meetings had executive sessions later in the meeting that we need to have summarized. And so, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, following our meeting on, and if you give me 1 second so I can check the date, following our meeting on August 20th, the board held an executive session to discuss personnel and potential litigation. And following our meeting on September 3rd, the board held an executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to begin our meeting this evening with our Fire Marshal Rich DiPolito, who's going to make a presentation in honor of some of our members of our Feral Souls Rescue Squad, Littleton Feral Souls Rescue Squad, and an act of, I guess you say, valor on their part to assist someone who was in desperate need of help.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to make this presentation. A few years ago, I met with Chris Reef, the chief of the Levittown Feral Souls Rescue Squad, and the 3 fire department chiefs in the township, and we just wanted to discuss what we felt was a lapse in recognition of certain individuals for events that saved a life or were above and beyond the call of duty. Prior to that, we never really had an award ceremony, and we thought we were missing out. We should be recognizing these people. Since that time, we've had a few of these presentations to recognize squad members, firefighters, police officers, and civilians for their actions when an emergency occurred. Tonight's presentation is another one of those events that, due to the combined efforts of many people, there's a person in this room that is alive to see this presentation. With that being said, I'll turn it over to Chris Reef, if he walked in. Did Chris get in? No, Steve Hare from the Levittown Feral Souls Rescue Squad to make that presentation.
Good evening. I'm standing in for Chris tonight. I'm honored to be able to stand here tonight in front of the board to recognize a team effort that took place on July 14th to save a life. When we talk about cardiac arrest, there's a chain of survival that must take place in order to save a life. And that begins with early recognition of the emergency. Somebody has to recognize the cardiac arrest and make a phone call and activate the 911 system. We then have to talk about early CPR. The faster CPR started, the better the chance of survival is for the person who is in cardiac arrest. Next, we talk about early defibrillation, using electricity to start the heart beating again. And in this case, that was applied by bystanders before EMS got there. And the fourth link in the chain of survival is EMS itself, advanced care arriving quickly at the scene. And in this particular instance, our guys arrived within 5 minutes of the time of the 911 call receipt. So I'd like to invite 2 other guests up tonight. I'd like to invite Lori St. Clair up. Lori is the director of Mission Lifeline with the American Heart Association, and she's going to present some awards to some of our people that assisted in this cardiac arrest. I'd also like to invite up Mr. Dave Franklin, going to read from my notes so I don't miss anything here. But July 14th, about 9:50 a.m., Mr. Franklin was working out at the LA Fitness Center on Cabot Boulevard in Falls Township when he experienced a sudden cardiac arrest, collapsing without a heartbeat or respirations. Fortunately for Mr. Franklin, the chain of survival worked exactly as it's designed to do in his situation. The staff at LA Fitness recognized the emergency. They contacted 911 immediately. Bystanders, and there couldn't have been a better group of bystanders there, who I'm going to introduce in a few minutes, started CPR. He had 2 nurses and a physician that happened to be other clients in LA Fitness that morning that started CPR on him. They realized that there was an AED, an automatic external defibrillator, in the facility. They grabbed that, they put it on him, they shocked him once before our guys got there. Our guys then got there within 5 minutes, continued care, administered 1 additional shock, and we got pulses back. So Mr. Franklin had the benefit of the entire chain of survival being there and being to his benefit. So I'd like to recognize the people from LA Fitness with an award. The local manager, Stacy Walther, and one of her staff members, Gabby Johnson. If you guys could come up. This is a certificate recognizing their contribution to the chain of survival in this particular incident. As I said, Mr. Franklin couldn't have had a better group of bystanders there when he went down. So I'd like to recognize Christopher Slivka, who is a registered nurse, Christine Cascone, who is also a registered nurse, and Dr. Patel, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to pronounce your first name. They were instrumental in starting early CPR on Mr. Franklin when he went down. And finally, last but not least, I'd like to recognize the members of the Levittown Fairless Hills Rescue Squad who participated in this resuscitation. They are Ben Calhoun, Janet Loudon, Steve Loudon, and Mike Del Rosso. What we award our people is ribbons that they can place over their chest or above their badge in recognition of a cardiac arrest save. Okay, I did not get it. Okay, Rich just informed me that, and we don't want to slight anybody in this, that there were Falls Township police officers involved in the resuscitation and providing cardiac arrest as well. Officer George Thomas, Officer John Yeager, and Sergeant Chris Clark also took place. So as I said, Mr. Franklin kind of had the ideal circumstances. The entire chain of survival went absolutely well in his situation. What we would like to do is, lastly, is just encourage everybody to learn CPR, and if you have an AED available in your facility, you should know where it's at, and business owners in the community, if you don't have an AED, get one because it can be life-saving. Thank you very much.
Why don't we have, obviously everybody here's, in all of the job that all of you did, obviously probably no more than Mr. Franklin, who's grateful, and it says a lot about our community that we have this many people, trained and officially trained through the township and through their local volunteer agencies, but also the people at LA Fitness and both the customers and the people that work there. It says a lot, and I'm glad we're doing this. And thank Levittown Feral Souls Rescue Squad and Rich DiPolito for really kind of working to put this together. I think certainly we can sort of move out of the way because we're not that important. Maybe all you guys can come sort of stand here if anyone wants to take photos or something like that. I mean, I think it's worthwhile to do. I know we have some people here from press and things like that. We can move because you're more important than we are at this point.
Camera. No pictures. No.
Can you guys hold up your citations, whatever you received too, so we can see those?
Can you get a little bit closer? On both sides?
Still going, hold on. Stay there. One more second. Okay, I'm all done. Thank you.
Very good.
My luck's never going to be that good.
If you have a heart attack, I guess that's the time.
Two nurses and a doctor? Hey, look, I'm having a heart attack. It's Dr. William. Thank you.
You'll have two morticians.
John Strazzeri. He'll just put his iPod on my ear. It's real loud. Let's rock.
His last words were, "Bury me now."
Rich.
I'm choking to death. Look, it's Dr. Heimlich. Not that I'm saying anything bad. We gotta get.
Okay, obviously a great way to start off the meeting, and honoring people that did such a heroic job, a wonderful job, saving a person's life. I mean, it's something that you hope you never have to be the one to do it, but obviously a lot of trained people who happened to be there who were able to help Mr. Franklin. So we thank them very much, and again, thanks to Rich DiPolito for organizing this and putting it together. We're going to move on with our agenda. Item number 1 is public comment. Mr. Gray retrieved the sign-in sheet. First name on the list is Lois Lambing.
Hello, how do you follow that? I mean, seriously. It's interesting how the meeting started, the moment of silence, the solemn occasion for the victims in the shooting yesterday, and then you end with such a wonderful human interest story that took a lot of people from community to help a stranger. That says a lot about our community and Falls Township in general. Part of the reason I'm here tonight is I'm the secretary on the Board of Parks and Recreation, and the last time I was here was in July. The Park and Rec Board made a request that the supervisor strongly consider the addition of a community center to our township. We don't meet in August. We have the month off. So when we reconvened last Monday on September 9th, we continued our discussion, and we're moving forward with our plans. We're here tonight, or I'm here tonight, to invite the community on behalf of the rest of the Park Board to our next scheduled monthly meeting on Monday, October 7th at 7 p.m. here in this room at the Township building. As with all of our open meetings, we'd like to hear from the community before we begin with and continue with our regular business. We look for input, any questions, comments regarding a community center that people would be interested in. We look forward to seeing all who are interested on October 7th, and Mr. Dents, we welcome you back. We'd like to see you at that meeting this month coming up, so thank you.
Okay. Just so you know, Mrs. Lambing, we did actually have some conversation after the meeting you were here, and we actually looked into one of the ideas that sort of came up as we were sort of listening to you just amongst ourselves was looking at Village Park Elementary School. If that was something that we could even just, providing, if we could rent it from the school district would get money.
Absolutely.
Be good for them, and we, unfortunately, Mr. Gray, contacted them probably the next day or a couple days after that meeting, and they had already sort of leased out all the space in that
Sure.
building. But it is certainly something we're conscious of.
Awesome.
Obviously, we do have a couple other, I guess, former schools between, St. Joseph the Worker and Cabrini, that aren't, or sort of, I guess, in fully occupied or occupied at all. So it's certainly something we can kind of take a look at as a building. It's already there that we could just sort of rent that might already have gym space and things like that, classroom space. So
Right, and that is what we talk about at
Yeah.
our meetings quite often. If only we could get one of those schools, either
Right.
St. Joseph the Worker or Cabrini. Both are so centrally located to most of the residents and have the parks and already have playgrounds, and I believe both have kitchen facilities near the gym, so it would really, either of those spaces to rent would be ideal, and I'm sure the Archdiocese would be happy to get them off their hands for a while.
yeah. So,
Thank
but-
you, thanks
sure.
for considering that.
Thank you. Guido Mariani?
During the last meeting, during supervisor comment, Mr. Dents at the last meeting said that vacuum leaf service would create a fire hazard because residents would have to put the leaves in the street and the cars would have to park in the street, and therefore, I guess, catalytic converters should have a fire. Now, you may have confused a street sweeper with a leaf and debris vacuum vehicle. Leaf vacuum service does not require to place leaves in the street. They don't want you to place leaves in the street. They place them at the edge of a lawn. I want to say that again. Leaf vacuum service does not require residents to place the leaves in the street. You place them at the edge of the lawn. The leaf and debris vacuum drives by the property, and the large vacuum hose vacs up the leaves and any debris. Now, just happen to have some photographs. If you'll take one and pass one down.
Sure.
Of what the leaf vacuum and debris looks like, and I have one for you, Mr. Manager, if you can share that with our counselors, and one for you, Mr. Sullivan. And for those folks at home, let's make believe this is a truck. You put your leaves at the edge of your lawn, and you come by, and this huge hose comes out, and it vacuums all the leaves. Now, our chairman said, he's correct maybe, that we have more seniors than any other township in Bucks County. Now, 9% of our 13,170 houses have households that someone who lives alone and is over 65. And of our 34,800 residents, 12.7% of them are seniors. Now, if we can spend $1.3 million, which I think the point you were trying to make, Mr. Chairman, for less than 1% of our residents who happen to be seniors, to provide a service like this for 100% of our seniors and 100% of our residents, I think we ought to do it. Now, you are correct when you say that leaves in the street, whether fall, winter, and they're piling up already along the curbs, they are dangerous and they are a hazard for people who park and especially when they're wet, they're like ice, driving on ice. But with the leaf service, after it collects the leaves and vacuums the leaves off your lawn, not off the street, they can go along the curb to get to the next house, and it makes our community a lot safer. These type of vehicles aren't only for the winter time and for leaf service, okay? They're used in the spring, fall, winter, summer, and they're used in all kinds of theaters to clear debris. They're extremely efficient, and I'm going to ask you again not to consider it, but to do it. So it's not a fire hazard. If anything, it eliminates a fire hazard. And I don't see it being the cost. If it is, I'd be very happy to discuss that with you, because it's not as expensive as you may think, and we have more than enough money in this year's budget to provide this service, not only for our seniors, but for everybody. I think not only you should consider it, I think you should do it, and I think if you don't want to do it, then please give us an explanation of why you don't want to do it or you can't do it, and let's discuss it. Thank you.
Hold on, may I? Sure. To vacuum the leaves, but this is something that we absolutely looked at 3 years ago.
Almost every year we look
Joe Arneo, I should say. There's no way that he would be able to vacuum the leaves, is what he told us, due to manpower problems. It's not purchasing it and not doing the work. It's not even parking in the street. Getting to the leaves is the major problem. Whether the leaves are in the street or the cars are in the street, there's probably not a single person in Falls Township that hates taking leaves, putting them in bags more than Jeff Dents. I hate lawn work, I hate yard work, and I hate leaves with a passion. I would love to have a vacuum. So when I was elected, one of the first things that we did, because that was one of the biggest requests when I was knocking on people's doors, was why can't we have a leaf vacuum like everyone else does? And when we looked into it, it just wasn't practical for Falls Township, for many reasons, not just... My point was that if the leaves are in the street, it's a fire hazard. If they're not in the street, the cars are in the street, and the vacuum can't get to them.
Oh, no.
I believe that at one point there was a vacuum in Falls Township, was there not?
There was at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just too hard to get to every house and vacuum the leaves. Believe me, I'd love to have a vacuum to vacuum the leaves.
We've asked multiple times, literally it comes up every couple of years, and every couple of years we go to Mr. Arneo and say, what do you think about this idea? And the answer is the same. And Mr. Gray obviously can support this, because it's not just me he's talking to, Mr. Dents. It would require such a manpower devotion because it's not only one person to drive the vehicle. Once the vehicle's full, now you have to take the vehicle somewhere. That's the other issue. Where do we put all these leaves? Do you have two vehicles standing by? One, do you have to have people there to help collect the leaves with this machine? It's not a single machine that goes by itself, sucks everything up, and the leaves. We have 82 miles of road in Falls Township.
Well,
this guy, and you have to go up, both sides.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, some of those trucks, some of those that I gave you demonstration of, some of them require only one person, and he's got a joystick and he can operate the whole thing himself. As far as cars being in the way, so on and so forth, all prior to retiring, I traveled all over this country, and a lot of the cities have what they call alternate parking. So
right.
The cars aren't in the way. You simply tell people on Thursdays or whatever it is, you can't park on this side of the street, and on Wednesdays you can't park on that side. And you can collect it and you can go. It's not as expensive as you think it is. It's not even close to that. These machines are extremely efficient, and they don't only collect leaves. You can use them in our parks. You can use them wherever you want to. And they're all year round. They don't only collect leaves, they collect debris. And so when it's a matter of manpower, they're extremely efficient. You'll probably get closer to optimum, what you want with your personnel, than if you don't use these machines. Many other townships use them. All over the country they're used. There's no reason why we can't have it here in Falls. I'm telling you, it's extremely expensive for older people not to be able to go out there and stuff bags with leaves. We don't have to have that. If you want an alternative, then get together with Waste Management and tell them to provide you for that service. They can provide you that
They already
service.
provide us free leaf collection, unlimited bags of leaf collection, which is something that other townships do not have.
Yeah, but other townships have leaf service.
Not that many of them.
Okay, we're going to agree to disagree
No,
again.
I mean, I'm just, we're talking to the people that do the job, and we're telling you what they say. We're not making it up, because
These are the people telling you we can't do it. I'm saying let's go talk to the people who are doing it and how they're doing it and why it's efficient for them and it would not be efficient for us.
All right, we'll find out a few
It's simple.
townships and see how many
Okay.
people they do it with.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yep, thank you. All right,
Like I said, I would love to have somebody collect my leaves from me.
I thought you do have you.
I wish somebody would come around and would cut my grass. You know how them landscapers are.
Yeah. Those are the only names on the list. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Mr. Dell?
Another option you guys may have is to subcontract the work out and put it out to bid, because there's a lot of landscapers have this equipment already. A lot of them have vacuums on the back of their trucks, and there's dozens of them running with them. And it may be cheaper to outsource the work instead of you guys owning the equipment, hiring employees, and put them on medical benefit. Just because it is a job that you're going to maybe go to someone's house, maybe we give them 2 pickups a year for the fall, and that's it. After that, they're bagging their own leaves. But maybe you say, hey, we're going to pick up your leaves. Maybe it's just one shot, so they get the bulk of them. But sub it out to the dozens and dozens of landscapers that are floating around with leaf vacs on the back of their truck. And maybe they each get a section. This guy gets North Park, this one gets Thornridge, and just see what it costs. Maybe throw it out there and get a couple bids, see what it costs. If you guys don't want to own that equipment or hire new guys, and I know Joe's a busy guy, but it's another option you might want to look at. It might make sense, and if the numbers don't work, they don't work, but at least you see what's available. And I know Garrett Equipment, they take the leaves and they dump them and they mix them into the mulch. They make mulch with them, and so you have local places to get rid of them.
Who's the guy with the red trucks you see driving around?
I don't know.
Forget. Yeah,
Best guy around. I don't know if you guys can afford him, but nonetheless, it is an option.
It is. Mr. Rocco actually just showed me his notes, and he just wrote that down before you
Okay.
got up there. So,
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
Rich, do you have any comments on leaf vacuums? Is it a fire hazard? As long as nobody's parking on them, right?
We had in the first place, I don't remember any issues.
Okay.
We have over time had a couple of car fires when people did sit on them.
Okay. All right. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is discussion of the Three Arches 300th anniversary. Mr. Gray?
Yes, on October 19th, the Three Arches will celebrate their 300th anniversary of the building. Tonight, to discuss this matter further, is Mrs. Liz Reese.
Good evening, Liz Reese, caretaker of Three Arches.
Evening.
We come as a tag team tonight. I'd like to first thank the support of the board to recognize the 300 celebration of Three Arches and your continued support of our building. It's going to be a very special day, as you well know, once in a lifetime. I don't think we'll all be around for the next 300 years. But it is this very special day that we'll be hosting. One of the most special is that we have several family members attending from all over the United States. There's at least 6 different ones that I know of, from Florida, Arizona, Maryland, California, Georgia, and probably some others. We are going to take a walk back in history, 300 years, as well as announcing and showing pictures of the restoration of the building from the 70s. We want to invite all of the community to partake in this free event, and we hope that all of the Board of Supervisors will be there for us.
And really, to conclude, we're looking for volunteers. Obviously, the Girl Scouts will be involved, our teen advisory panel will be involved, a few other members of the community. But anyone who would like to volunteer, you could just give Liz a call at the Three Arches number, which is 215-547-7823. And it's going to be a great event. I mean, it's something that only happens once in a couple lifetimes, and we're really all looking forward to it. And I could just make, if you don't want to call, if you want to email, you could do it at t2006@gmail.com. So you can either call or email Liz.
Okay, that's
board has any
that's the letter T?
Yeah, it's
TEA,
Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
as we were noted for.
So TEA 2006.
Yes, at gmail.com.
Okay.
And the event is Saturday, October 19th, right on the grounds of Three Arches, rain or shine, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're going to try to keep the entire historic nature, kids' crafts, games, a tour of the house, and it's all has to do with the history. There's not going to be any modern day. If you want to bring your children, bring them dressed in costume, that would be wonderful. But we welcome everyone, and we hope we have as good a turnout for this as we do at every other event that we host. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And I know Mrs. Hellier, who was the reporter, just kind of walked in, and so she missed your presentation. Make sure you catch her. She'll give you some good press.
Great, thank
Okay?
you.
Thanks. Just trying to keep you busy, Joan, that's all. Okay, item number 3, tied into this, consider award of contract for the Three Arches Historic Building renovations. There are some renovations we're trying to get done. We did get contacted 4 companies about doing work on Three Arches. We are still in negotiations with at least one of those companies at this moment. And so we actually are not ready to move on this right now. We're hoping to sort of get the price a little lower in terms of what we're doing and get a good contractor in there. So we're actually going to, I believe, table this tonight and hopefully come back to it so that we can get to, have them do this work. Is there a motion to table this?
So moved.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, item 4 is consider proposal for website services for the township. I know Mr. Rocco's been working a lot on this, but Mr. Gray, when you introduce a little bit, Mr. Rocco, I'll turn to you to do a little bit of explanation too.
absolutely.
You're the expert on this.
Township received a quote from Catapult Web for 3 years at $499 per month for website services for the township. Total for the 3 years is $17,964. The board is asked to consider this proposal. Here tonight representing Catapult to talk more about the website services is Mr. Bill Schwartz.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. For those of you whom I haven't met, my name is William Schwartz, and my company, Catapult Web, has submitted a proposal to redesign and redevelop the Falls Township website. I'd just like to give a brief overview of our company and the proposal that we offered, and then open up to any kind of questions you have about it. Since 1998, Catapult Web has been developing websites and internet applications for local government and private companies, both large and small. In 1999, we developed our first municipal site, and since then, we've created numerous lasting relationships with local government in Bucks and Montgomery counties. As of today, we maintain and host 15 municipal sites, all of which we created and developed by our company. It's that experience we like to bring to Falls Township. Central to our proposal for Falls Township is the integration of a content management system, or a CMS. This CMS will give Falls Township the ability to maintain and manage most, if not all, aspects of the newly developed site. Our chosen CMS is a widely used, stable, and feature-rich application. But in addition to the CMS, we've also included 3 core custom applications created specifically for municipalities. There's a news tool, a calendar, and a component for adding meeting minutes and agendas to the website. Briefly, the news component allows the township to post timely articles. An article can be configured with several options. They can be categorized, published in the future. They can be removed on a predetermined date. Articles can also be sent via email to website visitors who have created a news subscription. We find that these email subscriptions, this feature is incredibly useful for a municipality or a township to communicate with its residents, especially when there's changes in meeting schedules or events, or even when there's emergencies like snow closings and whatnot. Our calendar feature allows the township to post events on the site. Events can be categorized, span multiple days, and set as recurring, like board schedules and that. Lastly, our meeting component is a way to update the website with meeting minutes and agendas. These are text-based, they're searchable, and they can also include attachments for supporting documents or meeting packets for people at the meetings. Updated for this proposal for Falls Township is the ability to embed meeting videos for use of this tool. Training for the CMS and these core components are included in the proposal, as well as pricing and the services schedule. So I thank you for your time and any kind of questions you have.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just
Sure,
give a...
absolutely.
So a few months back, we wanted to look to see if there was a better solution for our website. A few of the goals was to kind of modernize the website, provide search. What we're finding is more and more people are going to our website to get information, look for forms, look for, as we heard the last few meetings, videos, so they can see, what's going on. The CMS system that you mentioned allows the business to update the pages as opposed to someone who's technical.
That's right.
So if we need to quickly change an agenda or post something, the business itself can do that. So one of the first municipalities that I reached out to was Middletown. They used your services, so they gave you great reviews. I did look at some other providers as well, and they just didn't have what you have, so.
Okay, thanks. We find that with a comprehensive search and an intelligent structure, we can really help residents find what they're looking for on all the sites.
Right, and then one of the other bigger components is mobile as well.
Sure.
So more and more people are using handheld devices as opposed to computers, so.
Typically, that's their first interaction these days is with a mobile device. So with this comes not only with a desktop, what you experience or a full feature site, you'll have different versions that are responsive for different devices and sizes. So for a tablet, it'll be a little less feature-rich than a desktop, but more than a smartphone. But when you get to a smartphone, it'll be streamlined and really make it intuitive for your residents to find information.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members, and then we'll open up to the public. Mr. Galloway.
No questions.
Mr. Dents? None. Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar a little bit with what Mr. Schwartz is talking about as a teacher. The school I work at, the tech school, has an overall website, and every teacher has a page or has basically access to that website, and they can set up their own page, update it as they need to, and sort of whether it's homework assignments or handouts that sort of are replicated on that site, so that you can access it from home, you can see what's happening, a calendar, et cetera. And the idea, of course, behind that is to avoid the situation we currently have here, which is we have one person who basically is responsible for the entire website. So anything that needs to be changed, whether it's code or it's updating minutes from the meetings, or it's a police issue, or it's public works, or just general news, photographs, everything has to go through that one person.
Sure.
And he has to update everything. This would actually allow, for example, the fire marshal, come October when it's Fire Prevention Month and there's activities at the different fire companies, he could very easily just go in, change the fire marshal's webpage, in a matter of, quite frankly, seconds. For myself, and I don't have nearly the expertise that Mr. Rocco has or Mr. Markey has, our IT professional here, or Mr. Schwartz certainly, but in terms of updating my webpage with something different, it takes me probably longer just to sign in to that website than it does to actually just change a few things, update some kind of homework assignment. I type it in, I hit save, and it's done, and the website's changed. It's literally a matter of seconds. And that would allow our people here kind of, a little bit more flexibility, get things up faster. It would allow Mr. Markey to sort of devote his time to a lot of the other things he does, and quite frankly, just because he's sort of pulled in so many different directions, it takes him a while to get to some of the things, not out of any fault of his own. But that would really free him up to do some things too. And you said you provided training for people to do that, to teach them how to do that.
Sure. What's going to happen, what would happen at the end of development, we'll set up comprehensive training schedules for anyone involved with the administering of the site. And then every quarter we'll come around for continuing education for either refresher courses for folks that maybe don't do it as often and they need to be refreshed, or for new staff that comes in to make sure they're up to date and they know how to administer the site.
Okay. And that's obviously all included in
It's all included. It's an all-inclusive package.
Okay. All right. What about any kind of maintenance? Something happens with the site, it goes down, somebody hacks into it. How does that work in terms of pay?
Well, hopefully no one's going to hack it. Now, everything with this package is included, from the monthly hosting cost to any kind of maintenance or support that's necessary for the site. That's the advantage of this package.
And it also includes upgrades as well. So if you have newer versions of your website.
Exactly. So any of our core municipal tools become updated or based upon a suggestion maybe from another municipality, you always have the option of upgrading to that version of the tool. And with this actual program, each month you'll gain allotments of hours to spend on your site. So the idea is that, once you've budgeted for a big investment or development in a site, you no longer have to be budget conscious of it. You're spending one cost a month, and in 3 months you decide you needed something else. We can do that work without worrying about gathering the funds. So that's an important part of the project for a successful site.
So what website would you say is your showcase site?
Okay, I guess one of the more recent sites we developed was a site for Lower Gwinnett Township. That's
Lower Gwinnett, okay.
It's a modern, feature-rich site that we're very proud of. We're proud of all of our sites.
Okay.
And one of the important things for us was the videos. I don't believe any of your other sites have videos, is that
No,
correct?
no, you'll be the first for this.
Yeah, so we looked at using some video providers, and I think what we're going to do is go with YouTube
Yeah.
as the default provider.
Yeah, we looked at
which
some other services, and YouTube still provides a pretty great service for us embedding their players onto the site and really leveraging their expertise
Right.
in either bandwidth or for conversions.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Public comment? See no hands. All right, so let's see. In terms of what we're looking at this evening, excuse me, we're looking to approve the term, which would be 3 years, 36 months, at $4.99 per month for a total of $17,964.
That's correct.
Correct. Now, there was an earlier quote in the proposal. Trying to find it. Sorry. That I just want to make sure. I don't know if this. I'm assuming it's incorporated in the 17,000.
Everything is actually
Everything.
included.
All right. So there was something here. Total. The project investment core costs $9,900. That's
Right.
That's
the idea
included.
is that's separate project pricing versus the actual preferred plan, which is the
Okay.
monthly cost.
All right, so it's not only just we're paying, obviously, for the creation of it, and all the work that has to be done, and that's sort of being spread out over the cost that's
Sure.
being spread out over the 3 years.
Actually, what the money includes is every 3 years you would have a brand new site design redeveloped with the technology that's current and standard. You also get a brand new mobile versions of your site, as well as any of the core components that have been upgraded, an allotment of hours per month, quarterly assessments where we would come in, sit down, discuss how the site's actually working for the municipality, see how we can improve it, and also quarterly continuing education.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, there's no further comments. There was no public comment. Is there a motion then to approve the agreement with Catapult for 36 months at $4.99 per month, total of $17,964?
So moved.
Seconded?
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
All right. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Okay, item 5, one of the most common questions, complaints that supervisors get, and I'm sure also the police and administration, deals with traffic issues. We've had multiple discussions on traffic issues. We've purchased some equipment for the police department to help them look at traffic issues. We try to stay as on top, and we know the police do as well, as we can on roads where we know that there are traffic issues, mostly speeding. I mean, certainly we have people that go through stop signs, et cetera, but speeding is sort of the most common concern. A few meetings ago, we had two people, a family, come to the microphone to discuss with us speeding issues in Vermilion Hills. And just, for the public, because obviously didn't necessarily know this happened, we did direct the police department to go and monitor that particular road with some of the electronic equipment that we have available. And so that was sort of a first step, just to see really how bad the problem was and what the issue was. And what we found really on 2 different days of analyzing was that the majority of the people, in one case, 526 out of 656 vehicles were traveling the speed limit or slightly over the speed limit. On the other day, 500 out of 536 vehicles were traveling at or slightly above the speed limit. And by slightly above, I mean, about 5 miles an hour. So the speed limit's 25, by, far, the majority of people were doing, 30 miles an hour or lower. And the next biggest group was people going between 31 and 35. There were outliers. There were people, one person doing over 50, a couple people doing over 40. But out of almost 600 vehicles, to have one car here, one car there going that fast. Doesn't mean, obviously, that we're going to ignore the problem. Certainly enforcement. We can certainly have the police starting to write tickets. Two different, I'm sorry, I thought these were I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought they were 2 different days or 2 different streets. But the one on Vermilion Drive was, as I said, 536 vehicles. 500 of them were going basically the speed limit or slightly above. The other street was Independence Drive. But nevertheless, we want to have a conversation about steps we can take, other things we can do. We did invite our traffic engineer, Mr. Beach, here from Reddington, Burlington Beach. Also, we have Lieutenant Ward from the police department. So I'll open up to the board for comments and questions for either one of those gentlemen, or just discussion amongst ourselves. We'll allow for some public comment as well, and discussion. So.
Well, but before Mr. Rocco and Galloway were here, we did have a presentation by our old traffic engineer who went over everything that you can do to calm traffic, what works, what doesn't work. The PDF is actually on our website still. You can still get that under forms and documents if you want to see it. We asked the police what were the worst streets at the time, and I think the top 3 streets were Austin Drive, Olds Boulevard, and Bernard. Were 3 of the top problem streets in the township.
The 3 top that we have problems with that we've done studies on that we found is Austin Drive, Mill Creek Road in front of the park, and Lower Thornridge Drive. Every other study that we've done, it's been similar to the one that you see in front of you, the ones in front of you. The vast majority of people are going at or under the speed limit.
Have you ever looked at Trenton Road?
Trenton Road, we have not set up the speed spy up on Trenton Road. No, we have not.
You live on Trenton Road.
Yeah. We've had,
They speed everywhere. I mean, you can look at this, you can say most of them were doing under 30, but out of 530, 205 were going above the speed limit.
well, I could tell you driving down Trenton Road, it's dangerous sometimes just pulling into a driveway. Going 35, you end up with a line of cars behind you, and that's the speed limit. It's just a long stretch of road with no traffic lights. And there's a school along the way, but people seem to gain momentum going down that hill. So I just bring that up just because I live there, but I see it every day.
What really hampers us too is Pennsylvania is the last state in the whole country that won't let municipal police officers use radar. That's a state police decision. I mean, it's very hard for us to set up fast car on roads like Trenton Road, New Falls Road, because you need a certain distance. And then you need a spot to be able to sit and observe that distance clearly, both ends. And there's really, on Trenton Road, unless you go into Elmwood Road, which we've tried, but you can't see both points. By the time you pull out far enough, people see you sitting there, and of course, they slow down. So, other than radar, we've tried to work with the state police on certain times, and they're just so overwhelmed that they can't come in to help us. So we're kind of stuck.
Some of the problems or some of the solutions or things we can do are obviously speed humps, which a lot of people don't like. I know the fire police hate them. We suggested starting on Austin Drive back when we did this, of the 3 streets. Olds Boulevard was very hard to do anything on. And Bernard Drive, we talked about doing, but that was still coming up for road reconstruction. So we talked about waiting till then, which is actually happening this year. But Austin Drive, when we suggested doing anything, we received nothing but negative responses. Nobody wanted speed humps in front of their house, and nobody wanted us to paint stripes. I'm not saying nobody, but the people that responded didn't want stripes because they didn't want us to change the look of Austin Drive. So
I think with the stripes, and this is just my opinion, I'm not an engineer, that just presents a lot of confusion for people. When we do find a street that has a problem, like Lower Thornridge Drive, when we did an enforcement there, we found that probably 85% of the people are the people that live there.
Yeah, sure.
They're all the people that live in Thornridge, and they're familiar with the section. So if they're the violators, you're going to paint lines on the road where they're not following the speed limit sign or not following the stop sign, where they're going to follow the lines in the road for. You know, I think it's just not working. Plus the confusion. If you get somebody from out of the area and you see these lines, the next thing you know, they got them driving the wrong way because they think the road is closed.
Yeah, I know that area on Vermillion Drive and Vicar Lane. I grew up on Viewpoint Lane there. And we used to just watch people blow through the stop signs. I mean, they're up there, they're there. But that was just one of the dangers. It was right near where that accident occurred. And it doesn't slow people down if they want to just ignore things.
Speed bumps are hard because in the middle of the night, if you're going 20 miles an hour and you hit a speed bump full blast, it sounds like a tractor-trailer accident in front of your house. And not only that, it's the speeding. People speed away from them. They speed between them. The perfect example is Terrace Drive. Is that Terrace?
Yes.
That goes between Oxford Valley and Woodburn, where they have them. You can't, you see the next one as you're leaving, but people, you speed from one to one.
Right.
Then it becomes a problem. God forbid there be a fire, they have to get down that street, because that would take you forever to get down Terrace.
I think Rich would agree with me. That's the thing that with the speed bumps, it's only slowing us down, fire trucks down, and
snowplows.
Even more the rescue squads, because those rigs are so big.
Right.
In the back, if you got a patient in the back and you hit those speed bumps, they're hitting the ceiling.
Yeah, if you're hurt, you feel a crack in the road hurts.
Right.
Speed bump.
So there's communities in South Jersey that put the dips in. It's a speed bump in reverse, and they'll have them at every corner, some of those communities.
I've never heard of that.
Every intersection,
Yeah, I've never seen that.
You drive through Lower Makefield, though, you can't help but notice when they paint the streets and you see the speed limit painted in the street, or slow down, they say, whatever is written there. I mean, you do notice that. I can't say it works because I've never, I don't know. I mean, it's something you do see when you're going down, you see the chevrons with the speed limit or whatever it says on it.
One of the, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Just to let the citizens know, if they do have a problem, they call us, and what we do is Lieutenant Airy set up a very good program. What we'll do first is we'll set the speed spy out, which is a radar gun, which is hidden, and then we get all this data. And once we identify a street that we know that there's a problem, we'll then put the, if you see our posted sign with the speed limit sign out, to let people know, because we know historically it's going to be people in the neighborhood. So we put that sign out to let them know this is the speed limit and you're traveling this speed. And then about 3 days after that, we'll do an enforcement check. And then, we're able to tell the local people, listen, we had the sign out, we told you this sign is there, we're sorry. And that really seems to alleviate the problems that are in the areas that we found problems in. We haven't done one for about 2 months, but Thornridge Drive has really slowed down since we did some enforcement. Mill Creek Road has been doing a lot better. Austin Drive is our constant problem. That's just like a big airstrip, and people just...
I know your biggest problem on that street.
The fastest person we had clocked on there was 100 miles an hour. Somebody was driving at 2 o'clock in the morning 100 miles an hour down Austin
Was it a Falls
Drive.
Township fire truck?
It might have been.
One of the requests we get from people, and I want to explain this, and I know we've touched on it in the past, is people ask us, well, people are speeding on this road, why don't we put up a stop sign to make them stop? And the problem is that we're not allowed to use stop signs to control speeding. We're not permitted to do that. PennDOT does not allow that. And so we can't just throw up stop signs because people are speeding on a road that's sort of straight and they can see it's kind of wide, maybe something like Trenton Road even, they just want to go. We're not permitted to do that. And it's a question we get periodically. Somebody asks, and well, I want a stop sign on my corner to stop people from speeding, but we're not allowed to do that. And, as Mr. Galloway already said, people, especially the people that live there, the residents will say, they don't need the stop sign, and they'll just go right through it.
Like the speed humps, too. They speed from them.
Right, yeah, that's the other thing, too. They'll speed away from them just because they feel like that, 8 seconds they slowed down doing a sort of a California, stop. They're just going to make up that 8 seconds by, gunning it to try and get to the next one.
But for Trenton Road, I'm going to call Lieutenant Airy then, right?
Yeah, we can set up Trenton Road. Like I said, though, we're going to see that there is a problem there because New Falls Road, Trenton Road, big roads, the problem is going to try to do an enforcement there. We're going to have to figure something out. The only thing that I can think of is that we try to nail down the state police maybe a couple weeks ahead of time, and so they can schedule something for us, so one of their troopers can run the radar for us.
And those are state roads, New Falls and Trenton Road.
Right.
So,
Right.
So what do you consider would be a problem street? Like, we have these two in front of us here. You know, 321 out of 650 cars are above the speed limit. Is that considered, you know, a problem?
What we look at is the national average, and anything over the 85th percentile. And both these streets do not have anything over the 85th percentile. If you had vehicles that were traveling, if you see the blocks there, I don't know, do you have the same form that I have here? Did they give that to you?
Probably, yeah, probably the same.
When you start see them going, a large number of people going between 36 and 40 miles an hour, that's when you know you have a problem. The other problem with VASCAR and AccuTrack and stuff like that, we have certain minimums because of human error. You have to count that into it. So the courts give the people the benefit of the doubt. So if we don't clock somebody over 11 miles an hour, more likely than not, the district court is not going to find a person guilty of speeding just because of human error. So it's traditionally 11 miles an hour and over. That's when they're going to get a speeding ticket. And most of these people aren't doing that. They're not going over that. And it doesn't mean that we can't stop them, you know, and educate them. I mean, we could do that. But like I said, we're going to find people historically that live in the area and they know it, and I mean, they have a stake in the area. Their kids are there,
Right.
Their neighbors' kids, and it's just human nature, I guess.
Right, and you know, I mean, I drive down Lower Thornridge a lot because my mother-in-law lives there, so we're always going to her house. So I know once I get on that street, I know where there are houses, you know, where there are kids. I know there's one house that has a lot of kids. They're usually out in the street, so I'm slowing up. I don't drive real fast to begin with. But I'm slowing up because I know they're there and I'm waiting for somebody to pop out from behind a car. But I also know there's a stretch where there's hardly anybody ever out, so I'm doing, you know, the speed limit or slightly above, you know, while my wife is yelling at me for driving too slow. You know, before, you know, just to get there. So and you're 100% right. The people, if they're familiar with the area, they know roughly where they're going. They know kind of what to look out for, you know, and so they feel like, oh, I can go faster here. And maybe it's the, I'm almost home, let me just get home, you know, kind of attitude too, I don't know. Go ahead.
What are the other problems is people look at this stuff, from the data from the Speed Spy, and they say, well, it must have just been an off day, it must have been an off week. You know, we don't care, it's still a major problem. There's still people speeding on my street, there's still kids playing out front. What are you gonna do, wait until somebody gets hit before you do something? So the question is, what do you do to try and prevent speeding?
I mean, we can sit down, we're having a staff meeting this week coming up, we can sit down and try to figure out something a little different, try to hit these areas a little harder. I mean, there's always a way. I mean, just visibility of a police officer really slows people down. We can figure something out about that. But like I said, it's very difficult because we have so many roads.
Sure.
And unfortunately, and I'm not disputing anything anybody sees, you know, if someone saw that guy driving 100 miles an hour down Austin Drive and they call us, you know, everybody's doing this. You know, there's one guy that's doing it, but that's bad enough. It's just what we have, you know, what we have to work with.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, I mean, you know, and I don't know how much of it was in place before we had the meeting a few years ago, and how much of it may be changed after that meeting, but, you know, the police have a procedure in place as we speak. That, you know, they get a complaint, and as Lieutenant Ward said, they'll go out there with the electronic device. They'll monitor the situation. They'll follow that up, you know, with the big, you know, speed trailer you see, and they'll follow that up, you know, with enforcement. And part of it also is, you know, they certainly know the areas where they're speeding. You know, a lot of the cops we have here, you know, have grew up in the township or have been on the force long enough. They know the township, you know, very, very, very well. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to get input from, you know, members of the community. You know, if you see a problem, maybe there's something going on in a certain street for whatever reason, maybe because there was construction and the roads are being done in one area, now there's more traffic in another area, and a road that never got speeding before all of a sudden has it, you know, and you assume that the cops know. You know, sometimes we're often asked, you know, questions as supervisors about something that we don't know anything about because, you know, no one's reported it, no one said anything about it. You know, why aren't you doing something about that house that has the business in it? And we say, well, what house has a business in it? You know, we didn't, you know, and once we find out, then we start enforcement. And so really just asking the public, you know, number one, you can help by not speeding. That's the first thing. You know, this isn't, we're not catching people that are outside the town, from outside the township doing it. These are people from the township doing it. So that's the first thing, is to not speed. And the second thing is just to, you know, if there's an area on a street that you're living on that has a speeding issue, you know, let the police officers know, and they'll do what they can. I know we have Mr. Beach here as well. I know if he can just give us some ideas of other things that, in terms of traffic, you know, ideas that we've probably touched on a lot of these, but some tips. I thank Lieutenant Ward for all his input. It was very helpful, as always.
Do you have any data that supports striping the streets or anything like that? That does work, doesn't work?
There's a lot of data out there. Obviously, the most effective way is enforcement. That's the most positive way. Usually on residential streets, you know, the speed humps or the speed bumps, and they get speed tables, you get raised intersections. I mean, all those have some benefit if used in the right location. They do slow down emergency vehicles, so you know, I know that's always a major issue. And it can have the effect, like you said, if you put a speed bump in, or, you know, the car actually goes airborne, so you make a lot of noise. In a residential area, we've seen some improvement when you look at, when you get to intersections and narrowing the intersection down. So instead of a 30-foot wide road, maybe you narrow it down to 24 to 26 foot. That gives the impression that the street's smaller than it really is, so that it has a tendency to slow some residents down when they do that. You can do that in a number of ways, you know, physical, like curbing. You could do it in using the chevrons or delineators. You could do it via striping. I mean, all that will help to some degree, but, you know, it's usually going to slow down the people that aren't from the neighborhood. It's not as effective with the people that live there, because they kind of get used to it after a while. So it really depends on, you know, the individual street and what the measures you can try. You know, they've tried chicanes where, you know, you got to weave down the street. Those generally don't. You get a lot of backlash on those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't
Lower
that happen
Make did
recently?
that a few months ago.
Newtown Township.
Newtown-
Newtown
Newtown,
Township
yeah.
talked about doing it, and it was like they were gonna like.
I think they
tar
did
and
try
feather
it on
people.
one or two streets.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't go over well.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It kind of went up in flames, but they did it in a way that didn't cost them a lot of money to do it, so that it was easy to remove those type of obstacles. I mean, we've actually taken, like, mid-block, just put large planters out to try to narrow the roadway down, give that feel rather than just having it at the intersection. And again, if it is not being effective and it's nuisance to the neighbors, you just pick the pots up and move them. So, I mean, there's ways to try to do it inexpensively, to try it out to see if it works on that particular street. Striping is, you know, relatively inexpensive to do that, so it's, you know, it's always one of the first things you might want to look at from a cost standpoint, because if it doesn't work, you don't want to have to be ripping out, you know, a lot of major improvements that you put in. So, but again, enforcement's probably the most effective way to really take care of these.
All right, we can require everyone to drive a Prius.
Stop. I'm not driving a Prius.
You don't have that problem in a Prius.
They only go up to 24, I think, don't they? Yeah. Mr. Rocco drives a
Okay.
Prius. For all the Prius owners out there who are going to write angry letters, you know, Mr. Rocco drives a Prius. That's why he made the comment. So, any questions or comments for Mr. Beach?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any public comment? No?
One of the suggestions back with the old traffic engineer was putting a committee together to deal with the complaints as they came in. To say, okay, well, let's look at this street. And
Yeah.
the problem we have as a board is people aren't satisfied there's not speeding on their street. There's a problem. I mean, what do we do? How do we deal with that? I mean, I stand on my street and I can tell you that there's people speeding.
Right.
I mean, they might not be going 60 miles an hour. Another problem is when you're standing still on the side of a street, 25 miles an hour looks a lot faster than it actually is. So I don't know how to, we can't just start striping every street in the town.
Right. I see one hand for public comments or motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
I knew you'd like this. Don't mention the Mustang, thank you. This is a problem is not fixable. Enforcement is the only way to fix this. You guys are all teenagers. Every generation that comes up is going to see how fast their car is. They're going to drive like knuckleheads. It's just, you're going to have a police presence there to stop it. Austin Drive, my parents live right near Austin Drive. Queen Anne and Austin Drive, that stop sign might as well not even be there. Unless there's a police car sitting there nosed out towards that intersection, they're going through that intersection at 50 miles an hour all day long. These guys could literally write tickets there 8 hours a day. But until you set someone up there for a prolonged period of time, they're going to continue to do it on those particular roads. And especially the longer stretches of roads are the ones, anything that's 2 miles long with no stop signs on it, eventually someone's going to be flying down that road. But narrowing the roads, you're just going to make it more challenging and more exciting to go faster on those roads for some people. And it's going to perpetually be new drivers out there, and generally the guys that live in the section. And without the police presence, it's going to continue. But I just think a couple extra tours out there, and especially on Austin Drive and Trenton Road, eventually people will be a little gun shy to stay on the accelerator all the way through, because they're not getting their, I think Pennsylvania, I'm not sure how many points is 6 or 8 before it doesn't take long to lose your license in this state as opposed to New Jersey. It takes maybe 2 or 3 decent tickets and you're gone for 6 months. So they're going to be a little more gun shy to fly down Austin Drive and Trenton Road. But redesigning roads and narrowing them and striping, I just think would be a colossal waste of money. I just think a couple extra cars out there for, even if it takes a couple months at different times sitting out there, because it's all day long, just that's the route we're going to have to go. And I think it'll be money well spent. Thank you.
See, Austin Drive and some of the bigger streets are, different cases than the typical drives in every neighborhood. Where, they might not be going 60 miles an hour for 3 miles of road, but they're still speeding and it's still a problem.
Yeah.
Even if they're not going over 30 miles an hour, still half the cars on the street are speeding.
Yeah, I like to do it just to wake Richie up, but other than that, but Austin Drive, I know, just from living there for quite a long time, they fly, and 70, 80, 100 miles an hour down that road, and it is sporadic, but it does happen, and you could hear them coming from a half mile away.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I think just the one correction is, it's not just teenagers that are speeding.
No, it's my wife.
So, so, I think there obviously isn't a full solution out of the box, but it's a combination.
I don't think anything's a colossal waste of money either. I think if you can do something to slow some people down and prevent one accident, you did enough. I mean,
yeah. We looked at using just like the chevrons with the speed limit painted, actually on the street. Just to get people's eyes to focus down for a second, just makes them, pause, makes them think maybe, and if it slows down one person, as Mr. Dents just said, and that's something that's very inexpensive to do. We talked about doing that on a couple different roads, and we just were sort of, wanted to see how other things worked, but certainly we can come back and take a look at that. And as we said before, the only way to really prevent it is to put one police officer full-time on every single mile of road in Falls Township, which we'd have to hire about 300 police officers, which of course, talk about building a bigger township building, and buying all the cars. Obviously, we can't do that. There's no way we can do that. So, I mean, it's, I certainly think it's probably a combination of things we can do. Obviously, all the work the police officers are doing already, added input from members of the public about speeding on their roads, maybe doing some of the painting, as Mr. Dents referenced, places like Lower Makefield, you see it. I see it in other places too. Very inexpensive. And all of those things combined, you slow down people a little bit, and you've had some success. You're not going to stop it? No, not at all. Okay.
There's a big issue down in Burgess Manor on Ferry.
Right.
Where they had a lot of cut-through traffic, and that was one of the things they did was stripe the street.
So I like the idea of a committee. I was curious to see what Lieutenant Ward thought not so much just to get the problems, but to help come up with a solution or even public awareness. And so I was wondering what...
I think it's a great idea. Anytime we can get the public involved to help us out. Just to reiterate, like you said, that people assume that we know problems, not just so much speeding, anything.
Right.
Drug complaints, anything. They assume that we know this, and we don't.
Right.
You have to call us. Don't be afraid to call us. That's what you pay us for. You're not
Right.
bothering us. That's what you'll hear a lot from people saying, I'm sorry I called. I didn't want to bother you. You're paying us. You're not bothering us. Call us for anything. And
Careful what
if
you
we
say.
could set up a, we do have repeat people that call us for anything.
Yeah, I'm
believe me.
sure.
Anything that involves the public and the police is a great thing. You know, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I agree. We're kind of taking a look at that. We sort of laid out a framework for how many people to have on a committee. Obviously, it would include members of the police department to take a look at different ideas. But just to kind of reiterate and expand on what Lieutenant Ward said, it's a question sometimes we'll get. I know I've gotten it before. There was this problem I had. I didn't know who to call. I didn't want to call the police to bother them. Or people that say there's vandalism, but it's not a big deal. It's just something small. I didn't want to bother the police. But the problem is that one act of vandalism could have been the first act of 10 more that's going to happen, or it could have been the 10th act in the past week. And if the police weren't called about any of it, then they have no idea it's happening. And so when they do catch somebody doing it, tagging with spray paint some kind of building or something, they don't know they did 10 other ones because nobody called them about it. If they're speeding on a road, or if there's a problem, again, going back, if it's drugs or something else, call every time. Because if they get a lot of calls about one property, even though they're minor calls, something, the antenna's going to go up and a red flag, and say, okay, something's going on at this property. We've gotten a lot of little calls, and maybe a lot of little calls equals something big going on. A lot of calls about one street that's getting a lot of speeding. Obviously, you've already heard us talk a lot here about the streets we know where there's a problem, and there's always going to be a problem, always been a problem. But yeah, make the call. Or even if we're, going through the website and, something, whether the one we have now, the one we're going to have, allowing people just to, put in, input, speeding on this road or something where they can put that in and it goes to the police and they can see, all this input and it helps them, and this is a community, and that means everybody works together, and then, that's the only way the community gets better. It's already a great community, but we have to keep it that way, and we need everybody's help to do that. It's not just the 5 of us and the professionals and the 52 police officers we have and the fire companies. Everybody has to do something, as you saw this evening with the 2 nurses and a doctor and staff members at LA Fitness that save a man's life. And before the professionals show up, and they did a great amount of work just to keep him in a state where the professionals could really bring him back. So, any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, where do we go from here? I mean, just talking about it doesn't do anything.
Right. Well, we take a look, as you said, we do have sort of some notes from our last traffic meeting talking about maybe forming a committee.
I'd like to see if we can get some data on what does work and doesn't work, like numbers, if the striping helps, how much it helps, if it does help.
All right, well, let's
Mr. Beach can help with that.
certainly something we could ask. Okay.
Maybe we
Alright.
can talk about it again next month and maybe put a committee together and
Sure.
start
Yeah.
doing something about some of these streets.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for all the input from everybody. Let's see. All right. Item number 6 is, and 7, really kind of connected here. Consider purchase of Motorola radios for fire and police. Lieutenant Ward was here before to talk about this, and we're going to have him back again. Mr. Gray, you want to introduce us?
On September 3rd, Lieutenant Ward requested and was approved for the purchase of new Motorola radios for the Fire Marshal's Office and Police Department. The total amount approved by the board was an amount not to exceed $720,000. There has been a price change for an additional $22,231.90 that is required. In addition, the township will need to have the old radios taken out and the new radios placed in the vehicles. The cost is projected to be greater than $18,000. Due to this, the board is asked to consider authorization to advertise. So there's 2 items tonight. Consider the purchase and authorization to advertise.
Okay.
After the last meeting, I went to the county to order the radios. The price jumped from the last time we were quoted, and they neglected to tell us the price didn't include silly things like batteries, antennas, and microphones. So with all that added together, it costs an extra $22,000. But in the overall, if you look through the memo, what I asked for what I requested the last meeting was the Fairless Hills Fire Company looked like they were going to order, their order was going to be $100,000. Their order came in at $65,000. So we have a savings there. If you add this cost to the cost that we asked before, we're still saving approximately $12,000 on the overall cost. So those guys actually getting a grant and working hard really saved us. The fire companies did a great job, too. Each one of them went out and found their own money streams, too, so they should be commended. Overall, from the price that was budgeted, $1.2 million, we should have approximately $227,000 left that we did not spend.
Okay. All right, comments or questions? We dealt with this in the last meeting, pretty straightforward. Any public comment needed? All right, so we'll look at the first item here, which is to sort of increase the amount of money it's authorized for the purchase of the radios, as outlined in Lieutenant Ward's memo here. Amount not to exceed $742,231.90.
Okay. You're making a motion to do
I'm
that?
sorry, is there a motion to do that?
Yes.
Seconded.
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and the second item, as Mr. Gray said, is basically authorizing to advertise for the installation of these radios for fire and police. And do we have like a ballpark idea of what we expect? I'm sorry.
That was quoted up there from the county between 18,000 and 25,000. I had put some feelers out. I had to get some input back. I have input from one vendor that said 16,000. So we're kind of between 15 and 25, somewhere around there.
Okay.
These new radios are so complex. There's no way. Leon used to put our old radios in from the police garage. They have GPS, they're trunked, they have scrambling in them. It's be very, very difficult for him to do.
Okay. All right. So, any comments or questions for Lieutenant Ward regarding just this authorization to advertise?
None.
Okay.
I'll
Any
make that
public
motion.
comment needed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. That's fine. Yeah. I didn't think it'd be public comment for you to ask. All right. So, go ahead, Mr. Dents.
I'm good.
You're gonna make a motion.
Oh, I did, yes. I'll make the motion to advertise. I'm sorry.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, items 8, 9, and 10 are right up Mr. Gray's alley here, talking finance and all that exciting stuff.
Thank you, Mr.
This
Chairman.
is the part of the show where you can go, make yourself some popcorn or not worry about missing anything. Go ahead.
Township has 3 minimum municipal obligations that are due. They're also known as MMOs. These are a requirement of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that has to be completed each year by September 30th. Basically what the MMO is, it's a budgetary tool for the following year's budget for the pension plans. We have 3 pension plans right now: the police pension plan, the non-uniform pension plan, and the public works pension plan. For the police pension plan, the total amount of the MMO for 2014 is $1,741,005. The way that will be funded next year will be through the member contributions, through the state aid, and through township funding. State aid comes from, the money from the state aid comes from a giant pool that businesses within the Commonwealth, out-of-state businesses that do work within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, put 2% of their insurance premiums into a pool, and that money is put into a giant pot and it's distributed to all the different municipalities throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And again, the police contributions and the township funding make up the difference. So for the police pension, we're asking for $1,741,000 and $5. Do you want me to do one at a time, or should we explain all
I think
3?
we probably have to, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, sorry, wrong one. There it is. Okay, so, resolution, this is 13-26.
26.
Okay, authorizing the MMO for the police pension plan at $1,741,005. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Gallagher? Sorry, Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The second MMO is the non-uniform pension plan. This one is $107,057. This covers the administrative workers in the township. Every employee in the township, every full-time employee in the township other than the public works and the police members. The board is asked to consider this resolution as well. Again, the MMO is 107,057.
Mr. Gray, this is all required?
It's required by
It's
state.
not optional, right? We have to do it?
Have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is basically, essentially, we're saying publicly how much money we're going to be paying into pension plans, you know, so that we read about and we hear from people who come to the podium and talk about Stockton, California, and Detroit, and, you know, how, you know, Falls Township is going to fall apart or something like that. And this is kind of one of the transparencies that, you know, people can see what money's owed. So we're looking at Resolution 1327, $107,057. Okay. And this is for the non-uniform. All right, essentially, you know, Mr. Gray would be covered under this one. All right. Mrs. Rukoff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, all the department heads, all the clerical staff, some of the police records employees.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve 1327?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The final MMO is for the Falls Township Public Works. They have a separate plan through PMRS, that's Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Service. The total amount of this MMO is $57,381. The board is asked to consider this resolution as well.
Comments or questions?
None.
No.
Okay, is there a motion to approve 1328 MMO for $57,381?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 11 is consider authorization to advertise for repairs to the Pinewood Pool. Mr. Gray?
Mr. Joe Arneo, Public Works Foreman, is requesting the board to consider approving authorization to advertise repair and restoration work for the Pinewood Pool. Bid specifications will be finalized shortly. Township budgeted $19,000 for this project in the 2013 budget. At this time, the board is requested to consider approving authorization to advertise for repair work for the Pinewood Pool.
And just to give us a summary, Mr. Gray, what are some of the issues with the pool that we're working on?
Some of the issues entail removing the existing tile, cutting below the wall tile for new plaster application, preparing the surface for plaster application, and then installing new tiles. Also included is plastering the entire pool service with a marble dust plaster, and remove all coping caulk and restoring with new expansion caulk material. And there is, I believe they also have a leak in the baby pool as well, so they are going to repair that also.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions for board members, from board members?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes.
They're going to resurface the entire pool?
Baby pool.
Baby pool.
Yeah, I think
Baby
it's
pool.
actually the baby pool, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't
I was gonna
specifically say that, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of this work is in the baby pool.
It's all in the baby pool.
Yeah, okay.
17 grand sounded cheap to do that whole,
And all that
Yeah.
decking, yeah, it's a big
okay.
area.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this is just authorization to advertise. Any public comment? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion to authorize advertisement for the repairs to Pinewood Pool?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, minutes from September 3rd. Any comments, corrections, questions regarding the minutes as they are presented?
I have none.
None.
No. Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented for September 3rd?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Engineers report. Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 8 of the 13 roads in the 2012 road program are now substantially complete, including installation of the wearing course. All those roads are on the east side of Makefield Road. The 5 other roads on the west side, Winding Way West, Midway Drive, Hedgerow Turn, Lions Drive, and Hilltop Lane, are under binder course. Driveway restoration and lawn restoration continues, and the paving of the wearing course should be completed in the next couple of weeks or so, which would make the project itself substantially complete. Work is still ongoing in Falsington as well. That should all be completed again in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. Still waiting for transfer of service to the new transformer at the senior center. That's scheduled for the first week in October. And once that's done, the landscaping can be completed, and then that project will be basically substantially complete inside and outside the building. Inside the building has been completed for about a month now. 2013 road program pre-construction meeting was held last Friday. Work is officially going to begin on the 23rd of September, which is next Monday, and the first road is going to be Valley Road. I think we'll try to get that completed under binder course at least, maybe even wearing course before Thanksgiving, and then utility work will be begin on all the other roads. And that's all I have at this time.
Okay, comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galway?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Really?
Okay, I do. The road program seems to be really taking a long time. This is like the 3rd or 4th month. I think at one point we were guaranteed August 22nd would be complete.
We gave them until August 30th to substantially complete the project.
And now September 17th.
They missed that deadline, and they're therefore under the threat and reality of liquidated damages for every day that they are incomplete.
What's the holdup on the west side of Makefield Road?
Manpower. Contractor doesn't have enough forces at this time to complete the project expeditiously.
What kind of penalty?
$900 a day.
900 a day?
Is this same thing going to happen next year with the same?
It's a different contractor.
Right.
James D. Morrissey is the contractor for the next year. They've done a couple of fairly substantial road programs in Falls Township, and we haven't had any problems with them.
And we haven't had problems with General Asphalt in the past.
No, not at all. The quality work is fine. It's just didn't seem to have enough crews to do the work in the amount of time that we allotted.
Right. People that live over there are very frustrated, obviously.
Yeah, I can understand that. We're frustrated ourselves.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
Can I get an update on the Quaker Penn baseball field?
Yeah, we're meeting with contractors this week to take over from the other contractor to make sure that the work is done properly and expeditiously this time. We're also working with our consultant, field consultant, for field conditioner and other things that need to be done for the infield and the outfield.
Okay.
All that work is scheduled to begin as soon as fall ball is complete.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. And that's all. I didn't have anything. Any other questions? Public comment? Questions for Mr. Sullivan? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to accept the engineering report, which is dated September 13th, 2013?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, the bill list for this month, $2,744,006.75. Of that 2.7 million, approximately 1 million is payroll and health insurance. And then obviously there's quite a bit of money in projects, the road program, for example. Insurance, Delaware Valley Workman's Comp insurance is about $100,000. There's another one I had in here somewhere and I can't find it. There it is. General Asphalt by itself is about $1 million, the road program. So really of the 2.7 million, we're looking at salaries and benefits is $1 million. The road program's another $1 million. And then about $100,000 for workman's compensation insurance. Okay, so we're looking at, 2.1 out of the 2.7 is just those three things. And everything else, everything from work on this building, parts for vehicles, parts for, public works, equipment, fire hydrant service, electrical, engineering, and legal fees makes up what everything else. So, comments or questions regarding the bill list? Anybody? No?
None.
Okay. All right, then, is there a motion to pay the bills dated September 17th, amount of $2,744,006.75?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, we do not have need for an executive session tonight. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, just 2 items tonight, Mr. Chairman. First item, Township received a letter from Mr. Chris Schubert dated September 11, 2013, regarding the conditional use application for Selco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, requesting an extension on this project until October 15, 2013. The board is asked to consider this extension.
Okay, comments or questions regarding the application or the letter for extension?
No.
Is there a motion to grant the extension as requested?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just my other comment, Mylars for Mercer Court are ready for board signature. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll go to board comment then. Mr. Galloway?
No comment this evening.
Mr. Rocco?
No comment.
Mr. Dents?
Just going to comment that we did have a good discussion about the traffic calming, which is a big issue, a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. Hopefully we can make some progress with that soon and not brush it away or forget about it again. So, other than that, that's all I have.
Okay. Just a few things from me. We did get a letter from an individual interested in being on the Disabled Persons Advisory Board. We just recently got this. I have not had a chance to contact the individual. I'm assuming nobody else did either. So maybe at their next meeting, we can, encourage board members to give this gentleman a call and have a discussion with him. And perhaps if we're interested, we can appoint him at the next meeting. There were some complaints recently, and they were valid complaints about meetings of the township, Board of Supervisors not being updated. That was for a variety of reasons, largely technical. The machine that that does all this kind of recording of these meetings and then does all the kinds of magic that has to happen for it to get in on the computer, which I don't have any knowledge of, broke. In fact, there's one meeting May
22nd, I think it was, second meeting in May.
The second meeting in May never got recorded because the machine just went down completely. And we actually had to borrow another machine from another municipality, literally have it brought here for these meetings, hooked up, completely used, and then brought back to them, disconnected here, brought back. And so that obviously slowed a lot of things up. And then buying another one, which it took some time. They are all up now. All those meetings that were sort of backlogged are now updated, so we apologize for any inconvenience for people. I also want to thank the representatives of Pennsbury School District as well as County Commissioner Diane Marseglia. Attended a meeting yesterday here in this building with myself and Mr. Gray and Mr. Sullivan to discuss problems on Chatham Road regarding drainage issues, which is leading to mosquito problems. The property is county property. We have people that complain from Chatham Road about the issue. It's kind of, it creates a very, very wet environment. It's really kind of encroaching on people's properties. This area, the water does not drain properly, and the county does not maintain it as they should. There was an individual at the county who was blaming Pennsbury. We had Pennsbury there, and we sort of agreed that it really wasn't Pennsbury's problem. But the county, Commissioner Marseglia is really committed to sort of trying to find a solution to this, and we thank her for coming out, and we're hoping that we get some progress on that. So hopefully she can convince the other two commissioners that something needs to be done, and that property, which is county property, has to be maintained. And finally, I want to just let people know the gun buyback program, which the township supervisors approved a few months ago, is scheduled for October 19th. Okay, it will be here in this building. There'll be more details to follow in terms of time, but I want to let people know that that's the date right now, and don't anticipate that will change. So, and thank all the members of the police department who are working on that. as well as the township staff. And I believe that's it. I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed. I think in the last meeting, we sort of neglected to wish those residents of Falls Township who are Jewish, or wish them well on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the 2 holidays we've had since our last meeting. So I apologize for that oversight, and hope the holidays were good for them. And thank everybody for all their work on this meeting and the good discussion we had, the professionals, the staff, the police, and Fire Marshal Topolito being here. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.